for the Weekly Planet podcast show. So sit back, relax, and give us a go. Scott and Matt and maybe a guest have undertaken an epic pod quest. We're gonna ramble on about movies and books and television and film festivals and directors and all this other stuff that I really know nothing about because they made this really long list of things that they want to talk about and I can't even read through all of them, but it's gonna be great. Okay, start the show.
Hello and welcome to the Daily Planet podcast, your daily dose of all things movies, TV, books, and anything else we feel like talking about. My name is Scott Daly, editor-in-chief of dailyplanetfilms.com, and I'm joined as always by my co-host and co-editor, Supreme Leader Snoke. How you doing, Snokey?
I'm ready to discuss Star Wars.
So happy to have you here, Supreme Leader. Very excited to talk Star Wars with you. It's the new year. It's 2016. It's the first podcast of the new year.
Yes.
You're a man of few words, Snoke.
All right, that's better.
It's
yeah. I mean,
it's Matt.
Yeah,
it's Matt.
What do you mean? What's going on? Yes. It was a good year in film. I think that a lot of people had their faith restored in film this year, myself included.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And we are gonna talk a little bit about 2015. We're gonna send it off, and then we're gonna spend the rest of our podcast talking about Star Wars, because we haven't talked about that enough, I don't think. And the new one, right?
Yeah. Yes, that's right. We haven't talked about the new one.
Yeah. So we have a couple guests this week to talk about the new Star Wars. We have returning podcast guest James Gentry. James, welcome back.
Hey, everyone. Thanks for having me, guys.
Thanks for being here. We also have Daniel Freeman. Welcome back, Daniel.
Thanks for having me as well.
Daniel is infamous for liking every single movie and not disliking any movie ever.
This is true, but I do actually not enjoy some movies.
Wow, I don't believe it.
Someday you'll hear. Perhaps today even.
Oh, I can't wait. Okay, so like I said before we got into our Star Wars talk that we're gonna nerd up. I guess first thing we should say is that we're gonna spoil the hell out of Star Wars: The Force Awakens in this podcast. So if you for some reason have not seen the movie, you should not be listening to this podcast, or at least stop listening when we move into Star Wars. But also, if you haven't seen this movie, I don't understand what you're doing. So go see the movie, right? I think hasn't everyone?
I think everyone
Go watch it.
That's official.
All right. So let's talk about 2015. What I wanted to do here was just kind of go around the figurative table and talk about what your best and worst film experiences was for the year. Gentry, we can start with you.
All right, cool. Sounds good. So I did. Well, let's see. We'll start with my favorite movie from last year. Obviously, we'll give some quick honorable mentions to Mad Max: Fury Road and It Follows. But my favorite movie will go to Ant-Man. Obviously, I talked about this when we did the podcast for our favorite summer blockbusters. But just really quickly, I think it was one of those movies that people didn't really know what to expect. It's a very small movie, very small story within like a large universe. But I thought they executed it well, and it was very funny but also sincere, and I thought they did a great job with kind of the practical effects and just kind of the general CGI, and thought it was a very solid cast, kind of mixing it up and bringing Michael Douglas in, which was great, and Paul Rudd as playing the Ant-Man character was ended up working out well. So that's my favorite. And I'd say the worst movie for me of last year out of my list, I think I saw probably about 10 or 11 movies, has to be Terminator Genesis. So I just have terrible written next to Terminator Genesis. No, but aside from the numerous plot holes, which obviously we don't have time to go into or anything. I just thought just continued disappointment. I thought the acting was subpar, to say the least, judging by the script. The story was obviously weak, given all the different plot holes, and not really original. It's like they took out a bunch of chunks out of every other Terminator movie, especially the good ones, and try to just stuff it into this, shitty buffet of terrible CGI and, underused Arnold Schwarzenegger. So, didn't like it. Luckily, the person or the friends that I went with, one of the guys ended up paying for all of us because he begged us to go see it when we were out of town, and so we did. So that was very nice of him. So I didn't spend money on it, but yeah, that was my worst.
I did. I spent money on that movie, and you're right. It was awful. And I like that you represented Ant-Man. I think it's funny. We did that summer movie podcast, and I don't think either of us really expected our favorite movies that we picked on that thing to be our favorite movies throughout the end of the year.
Absolutely. Did not expect it. I think it was in August, right, when it came out? And I was almost thinking, it's like, especially after Avengers 2 had come out, I was kind of just, indifferent or curious. I didn't really know anything about the story. So it was a pleasant surprise. I really enjoyed it. I had fun watching it. And, I really kind of fell for the story itself. And, nice to see Kate from Lost again. She's always fun.
Still doesn't deserve to have her own name. Still Kate from Lost.
Yeah.
I have
Okay.
no idea what her name is.
Evangeline Lilly is her
Yes.
name.
Really?
Learn
Wow.
it.
I had no idea.
Because she's going to be in the Marvel movies from now on, because there's an Ant-Man sequel coming. Because Ant-Man did well enough. That makes me happy, because I really liked that movie too.
For sure.
Daniel, how about you? What was your favorite movie?
So I think my favorite movie was Ex Machina. And that's because so many times have they done the story of, like, what if man made a machine that was as smart as man or smarter, and then there was like a doomsday scenario, or it was just dumb or boring, or it was exactly the same movie as I'd seen already as another movie. And that's just, Ex Machina was so refreshing, and actually had awesome characters and great acting and an interesting subversive plot, and everything was executed perfectly. Ex Machina was great. Everyone should go see Ex Machina.
I agree. I love that
I'm
movie.
kind of pissed that I actually missed that.
Well, it's out on Blu-ray right now, so...
Oh, yeah, no.
What do you do?
I wrote it down. I know.
And so it also sort of satisfies my brother's criteria of having a good ending, which is really the only thing that matters to me, and also him. And so, yes, it has a great ending, in my opinion. Or it ends correctly, at least.
Yeah, Matt, you would love this movie, I think.
Oh,
You
yeah,
need to see it.
I've seen it.
Oh, you have seen it? Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm actually surprised to learn that it came out in 2015, because I feel like I watched it on some form of video like months ago. So
yeah, it came out in March, so it's been streaming and stuff for a while. It was one of those early 2015 movies that got kind of released at a weird time, but was really good. I think it made enough money to be profitable, but not many people saw it, unfortunately.
Yeah, I think
that's sort of. I think it's going to be a classic, really. I think people are going to be talking about this for a long time.
Yeah.
And I would say my least favorite movie was Fantastic Four. And so, I think much of my enjoyment of movies is derived of what I expect from them. So, I really, really, really wanted Fantastic Four to be better than the one that was made a few years ago. As that's sort of the minimum bar a reboot needs to.
You weren't
clear.
asking for much.
I was asking for very little, and it actually was astoundingly worse than the Fantastic Four previous. So, yeah, I mean, it like Scott said in his kind of recap of 2015 movies, it just fell apart somewhere, and it sort of had something going for it in the beginning of the movie, but I mean, there's something about just while the movie was being produced, things sort of fell apart, and then they had to recut things and rewrite things. So it's sort of not entirely their fault, but it is,
Right.
and I blame them for it.
Interesting.
The mysterious other script, right? That wasn't used.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the excuses behind this one are the director wanted to make a certain movie, and the studio wanted a different kind of movie, and he ended up losing that battle, but not until halfway through the production. So
Right.
there's the blueprints of one movie, and then halfway through it shifts to a completely different, way worse movie. It's weird. I agree with that one. That was on one of my worst movies of the year lists. Awful, and it's such a good cast too. That's the disappointing thing is all those actors are really great, and they just got nothing to work with.
Yes.
Yeah. Except for K-Mara's wig.
Well, that's how you can tell how many reshoots were done. That wig is awful. That's like SNL skit level of prop.
Oh yeah.
And they put it in a $200 million budget movie.
Yeah. I should have. Yeah. I'll have to watch that. I'll have to find that one somewhere.
There's a screenshot out there that when I was looking for Fantastic Four pictures for my post today, there's a screenshot comparing her two different hairstyles, and like,
Yeah, it's pretty blatant.
it really shows how bad the wig is.
Like the colors are way off too. It's great.
Right. So my favorite movie is kind of boring because it's this, just like Gentry. It's the same one I said back in August or September when we recorded our podcast. My favorite movie of the year is Mad Max Fury Road, and I'm not going to go too into detail with it because I've written so much about that movie already. But it's basically the perfect movie. It's one of the best action movies I've seen. It's probably one of my favorite movies ever. At least in my top 5, which I wouldn't even know how to build that top 5, but I'm just going to say it's in there. It's great. And my least favorite movie of the year is Chappie. Talking about Ex Machina and AI and movies discussing that. Chappie and Ex Machina are on two different sides of the spectrum. One is smart and thoughtful and interesting, and another is the weirdest, worst movie I've ever seen.
Yeah.
I wrote in my thing today, it really seems like every choice that was made was done to specifically annoy the people watching the movie. Like, and that's just, I just can't believe it. Like,
I find if you think of it as an extended music video for The Antwoord, it's much more enjoyable.
well, but there's no way because I listened to one of their music videos because I got out of this movie thinking, who the hell are these people? So I listened to one of their music videos, and it's awful.
Yeah,
It's so
that was
bad.
the worst experience of my life. Yeah.
What people were these?
It's an acquired taste.
The Antwoord is a South African rap.
Oh,
They
really?
have a special name for their genre.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah,
it doesn't belong to any genre. It's been outcast.
called the shitty genre, is what it is.
Yeah, I believe that's correct.
So these are the people. Like, I guess Neil Blomkamp's obsessed with these guys, and he
Yeah.
wanted that ninja guy as the Matt Damon role in the other movie whose name I'm blanking on.
Yeah, Elysium.
Yeah, he wanted Ninja in that role, and I can't. I almost wish it happened because maybe
Oh, man.
maybe we would have stopped believing in Neil Blomkamp sooner.
Yeah. And then Chappie wouldn't have been made, and we could all be spared.
Yeah. Oh my god.
Didn't he do District 9 though? I liked District 9.
Yeah, that's why.
I think that was an accident.
He has the M. Night Shyamalan career, but like on
blacked out.
fast forward. Like he made
Yeah.
one great movie, and
Jeez.
then one movie, and then one awful movie.
Wow movie. Yeah.
And he was gonna make an Alien sequel, but then they took that away from him because Ridley Scott wants to make Prometheus sequels, which is also a terrible idea.
Oh
And
no.
I'm so excited.
I'm gonna go ahead and put Prometheus 2 on my worst list of 2017, just preemptively.
It's gonna be what's her face carrying David's head in a bag.
God, I hope so.
Filmmakers need to stop making films for themselves and start making films for audiences again.
Yeah, I agree. But anyway, Matt, how about you? What were your worst and favorite?
Well, I only saw 3 movies in theater this year, although now I'm realizing I probably saw other movies that came out this year, but I saw them on Netflix. But anyway, the 3 I saw in theater were Mad Max, Inside Out, and Star Wars. And based on the fact that I really liked Mad Max and I thought Inside Out was pretty good, I'm going to have to say that Star Wars was the worst film of the year.
There you go, ladies and gentlemen. Matt Freeman says Star Wars, worst film 2015.
Which segues nicely into
our discussion about Star Wars, the worst film of 2015. So let's talk about The Force Awakens. And for those of you listening that haven't seen the movie, this would be the point where you want to turn it off or pause it and go see the movie and then come back and listen. Because full disclosure, we are spoiling this movie completely. We will not leave any story element out, even the stupid, confusing ones that don't make any sense. But first, let's talk about... I want to talk about the good things in this movie, because I think we're all going to spend the next 30, 40 minutes really talking about all the problems we had this movie and trying to dissect it. And it's a type of movie where when you do that, the movie kind of falls apart. But I think this movie really did a lot of things well, too. I think J.J. Abrams almost had an insurmountable task in front of him. To meet people's expectations for a movie like this was almost impossible. And I think overall, he did a good job with it. Matt, what is your opinion on your worst movie of 2015? What did you like that JJ did in this movie?
Yeah, so first of all, while I was watching this movie, I was frequently smiling and just getting caught up in kind of the adventure. And it is very propulsive. And I was liking a lot of the character interaction moments, and basically and also really enjoying the visuals. And when I walked out of it, I had this feeling of I think probably the first thing that I said to anyone after I left theater was that really did feel like Star Wars. And I actually maintain that it, regardless of how my opinion has changed since I saw it, I still think it felt like Star Wars. They nailed the aesthetic, the tone. It's a very ineffable thing, but just sort of the way the characters interacted in this sort of goofy way, almost that was totally absent from the prequels. They really nailed that and really kind of made you feel like you were back in the actual Star Wars universe. That was everything that I liked on my first pass. Yeah,
I completely agree. I think that the big thing to me was the new characters and how they set them up and how they interacted with each other. And I mean, I think we think about the original Star Wars, and one of the biggest things is the interactions between Han, Luke, and Leia being so amazing. And you loved watching these guys because you wanted to go on adventures with them. And I think these new characters give off that same vibe to me. Daniel, I mean, what did you think about the characters, the new characters specifically in this movie? And maybe, like, what was your thoughts on the movie as a whole?
I thought the new characters were great, like, just across the board, fantastic. They did a fantastic job of, like, balancing the old characters with the new characters. In fact, not really letting the old characters steal the limelight at all. Like, really, Han Solo was kind of kept in the background for most of the movie, letting, Rey and Finn kind of carry the plot and have fun interactions. I overall really enjoyed the movie. I thought it was, like you said, it's sort of impossible to meet everyone's expectations for a movie like this, but I feel like they did what I wanted them to do, which was distance themselves as far as possible from the prequel trilogy. And in many ways, like, this movie is a direct response to things that were wrong with the prequel trilogy, and I really appreciate that. So that's kind of my broad strokes how I feel about it.
That's great. That's great. Gentry, how about you? What did you think? You've seen it a couple times now, haven't you?
Yeah, I ended up seeing it twice. And the first time around, well, okay, so yeah, the characters were obviously probably what sticks out the most, to most people, and it's so different from the prequels. It was just kind of a nice return back to actually seeing and feeling something, and I thought, there were some great moments, small moments, basically what Matt said, how they kind of acted goofy at some points. You kind of get an idea of what these people like how they would actually be, how they're actually, forget like the world that they're in, but they're just acting normal, when they take down the TIE fighters and they're basically jumping up and down and cheering and like hugging each other. It's like I don't think we ever see Anakin and Obi-Wan, like do anything like that, which is unfortunate, because you want to see a little bit of life in them. What's that?
They were best friends. Didn't you hear Obi-Wan? They were good friends. Of course they did stuff.
They were like brothers.
Yeah.
It's like almost as bad as that time when I fell into the pit of Gundocks. But no, yeah. Like the small moments too, like between one of the moments that caught my eye was like Finn and when he tries to return Poe's jacket, like just humanizing them and actually having them kind of stick to the characters that they are was just nice to see. And yeah, I thought the tone was great and the pacing, it was obviously nonstop action. It was clearly Abrams, but it works for Star Wars. So yeah.
Yeah, I thought, and we're trying to find out what J.J. Abrams' skill as a director is. I really think it's imitation, and I don't mean that in a bad way. I think I think he's very good at looking at something and understanding the core of what people like about it, and imitating that and recreating that. And I think that's what this movie does very well. Yeah. Is it gets to that core of what is Star Wars to people and what do they enjoy, and it throws that on screen very effectively. And it's a fun, propulsive movie. Like you were saying, Matt, when I first watched it, and even I've seen it twice. The second time I watched it, I was sitting there with the smile on my face the whole time, and it's just because the movie rips along at a really quick pace, and you're just having fun the entire time.
Yeah, and and seeing it the first time, I was kind of caught off guard by Finn's, I guess because I had seen his interviews already, or a couple of his interviews, and I knew he was, what is he, like, I guess British. And, to see him as a stormtrooper, I did not expect him to just be kind of, loud and spazzy and clumsy. But the second time I saw it, I kind of put myself in his shoes, and I really enjoyed it. I actually, I thought, how would I, it's almost like you're a newborn, like getting away from the, what are they called? The First Order. Yeah, getting away from them. You're almost like born again. into this new world that you have. You don't have any experience. Well, at least from what we can tell. I mean, who knows what his, what his backstory. But I mean, he's basically Stormtrooper his whole life, right? In the movie.
Yeah.
What he says. Yeah. So I mean, like, I really kind of had a lot more fun seeing his character kind of develop in the second time I saw it. But all the rest were great. I mean, we can obviously get into Rey and Kylo Ren and stuff.
Yeah, I wanted to talk about Finn specifically, and Daniel, I wanted to ask you because I saw right after you saw it, I saw the Facebook post you made with how that was the best Star Wars fan fiction you've seen, and that's honestly, I think that's really accurate, and I think the character of Finn shows that more than anything, because to me, from my understanding of what fan fiction is, taking a stormtrooper and turning him into the hero is a very fan fiction-y type thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I wanted to get your opinion on the character a little bit, and what you liked about him, and
what I liked about Finn. So I think he kind of serves a purpose. Like you mentioned that J.J. Abrams' strong suit is sort of imitating, being a master of imitation, and in many ways, Finn sort of allows J.J. Abrams to tell you this is Star Wars. This is Star Wars, but this is his take on Star Wars. Because like there's this very early scene where it's basically the first time you meet Finn. He still has his helmet on, and that one stormtrooper gets like blasted, who's maybe Finn's friend, you don't know, and he just kind of like draws his hand across Finn's face, and it's just like a hand streak of blood, and it's like, oh, whoa, that's the sort of movie this is going to be.
Which is, I think, maybe the first time blood has been in a Star Wars movie.
Yeah,
considering the amount of decapitation and limbs falling off.
Right. It's basically it's J.J. Abrams being like, this, I'm going to tell you a different sort of Star Wars movie, but it's still going to feel like a Star Wars movie, but it's going to be it's going to be my movie. But that's not really about Finn's character. That's just
that's actually
his
that's
role.
a perfect, because that's really good imagery of what this movie is. It's J.J. Abrams makes a movie that is clearly his movie, but borrows all the iconography. So literally, blood on a stormtrooper helmet is like, that's a perfect image of what this movie is. That's great.
I also liked that Finn actually felt like a real character. Like, so in the moment when they go to the bar and he decides that he's just going to get out of there, like that actually like surprised me. And I'm like, oh wow, like yes, someone like him would be completely freaked out and would just want to get away from all of this horribleness. Like it felt like an actual real character moment instead of just people following the track of like what the plot needs them to do. It was like, no, this is going to be a problem. He's going to have to. He wants to get out of here. This is terrible. So
you're lucky, because I just read that as, oh, he's hitting the refusing the call part of the hero.
That's exactly how I read it too. Which we're not, guys. We're staying positive right now. We're talking about the good things.
Well, I just wanted to say, like, just to add to what you guys are saying about the fact that really accurately captured what mattered, because people want really different things out of these movies coming into them. Like, I was watching one review where this guy was really bothered about the fact that there were only X-Wings and TIE fighters, and no Y-Wings, B-Wings, or TIE interceptors.
Yeah.
This really bothered him. And then another person who said that Rey has zero personality. And I was like, these people are watching these movies differently than I am, obviously. Yeah. And the thing is, and I guess the point is, JJ knows he can't please all these people, and he frankly probably can't even please me along the axes that I was walking into the movie with. But what he did was he got the essentials out of the original stories, and he brought that into his movie. So good job doing that, JJ. Since you're listening.
Yeah, I agree, and that's crazy to hear that about Rey. Let's move on to Rey, because I think she's great. There's a lot of, we'll call it controversy. I don't think it is, but a lot of people calling her a Mary Sue because she's good at everything, and those people not really understanding what a Mary Sue is. But I don't want to get into that discussion. First of all, Daisy Ridley is phenomenal, right? I mean, like, everyone agrees with that, right?
Yeah.
Like, she's just came out of nowhere, had never really been anything big, and she has star power just naturally. She has this energy and charisma, and just a joy to watch. Like, she's great. Like, this movie found her, and she's going to be a superstar now, and that's awesome. But the Rey character is great, and the Rey character also is kind of the point of some of the problems the movie has, but I don't want to get into that. But Matt, what did you think about her story, her arc? What did you think about her opening? I thought her opening on Jakku was probably one of my favorite parts of the movie. The quiet parts that shows her daily life. Yeah,
no, I agree. Yeah, I'm not sure if I have a favorite part of the movie necessarily, but definitely, like, I think I bought her pathos and her loneliness more than I really even bought Luke Skywalker's, and even though she's sort of paralleling that storyline, and you really kind of feel her isolation and almost depression, because she's all by herself and she's sort of barely scraping by for the food, like just kind of her kind of empty expression when she gets the tiny amount of food rations for her work. And then what's neat is that kind of her character transitions very seamlessly into being someone who's very capable and active, and it doesn't feel jarring. Like you're not sitting there saying, like, oh, wait a minute. I mean, maybe some people were saying this, but I wasn't sitting there saying, oh, it's kind of unrealistic that she would suddenly just be able to, because I just kind of bought that was organically part of who she was, and that was all kind of under the surface.
Yeah, well, I think the movie takes 20 minutes to show how capable of survival she is in this harsh, unforgiving place. So to me, that's setting up clearly the fact that she's really resourceful, learns really quickly.
Right.
And so I think all that was set up, but a lot of people don't seem to.
Yeah.
Well, I guess they probably
I keep reading.
Go ahead. So I guess like the whole like flying the Millennium Falcon, I guess I wonder if like people kind of had an issue with that, or just being such a good pilot. where that came from. But again, we don't know a lot about what happened when these people were young. They're obviously a little bit older, so.
Yeah.
I mean, I keep seeing people complaining about her being able to use a lightsaber, and I'm like, well, they did foreshadow by showing that she's a competent stick fighter,
right?
And she would be, because she has to defend herself against goons all the time. So, like, it doesn't bother me at all that she can sword fight. Yeah,
I think that's largely motivated by the extended universe explanation of like lightsabers being really hard to control if you're not like crazy trained in them or something, and that's just people being bitter about that getting thrown away. So
which is stupid, because
I'm not bothered by it at all.
Yeah. If we're going off only what the movies have told us, which is what we should be, I don't see a problem with that at all. And that's why I thought it was really cool when Finn used it too. This guy who's probably not Force competent at all just picked up this weapon and started using it. I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, it kind of gave like a really organic element to like using a lightsaber, which is nice.
Yeah, and while I'm defending the movie, like, people rag on, like, how could Finn stand toe to toe with this Force user when he's not even a Force user? And it's like, well, they gave you the answer to that too, because Kylo Ren had already been shot with the bowcaster, which had been shown to like blow people to pieces, and so he's not fighting at the top of his game.
And also, he got his ass kicked. Like, he lost that fight. That's what people are like, how can he stand toe-to-toe? Well, he didn't.
He doesn't.
Yeah. So the movie has problems. It really annoys me when people harp on superficial things like that are absolutely answered within the movie.
Absolutely. Yeah. So let's talk about, that's perfect, Kylo Ren. Let's talk about him, because I love Kylo Ren.
Best character.
He's amazing. I love Adam Driver in the performance. I love the character. We talked in that Star Wars podcast before this movie came out, that we were all hoping he was kind of this weird, really different character that maybe was a little bit of meta commentary on the obsession with Star Wars iconography. And that's like exactly what he is. And but it's like that in like a really annoying dweeby way too. It's so awesome. I love his character. What do you guys think?
So my internalization of this character was that, like, Kylo Ren is the type of Sith Lord that I would have been if I received my Sith powers when I was like 18 and not had the emotional maturity and self-control of an adult, and just sort of not really known who I was, to use a cliche, because and I really think it's a good realistic character. Like, if you're going to have the element of the dark side in your world, then you have to be able to grapple with what that would actually mean for human beings. And I think most of the Star Wars universe has not dealt with that super deftly, because you've really only had the Emperor, who's cacklingly evil, which is kind of unrealistic, but I don't care, and then Darth Vader, who's like sort of, you never really know what's going on with him entirely, and that's fine. That works for his character. But what I like about Kylo Ren is, like, we're actually in this character's head and we're feeling his struggle.
I love that he's really super Force competent. Like, the movie takes the time to show you how good he is at the Force. Like, the whole interrogation thing was beyond what even Vader could do. So the movie clearly shows that he's really powerful. But then he has like very little control over it too. Like, to me it's almost a better version of what they were trying to do with Anakin in the prequels, but they couldn't pull it off. This is like that, I think, perfected. Because he's the exact level of whininess, but competence, but it's perfect.
And you say control in the way, like, as a skill, like as a power, he seems to control it. Like, obviously, he stops the laser, which is great. But control, mentally, like, just he gets angry so fast, just
yeah.
I think the best explanation of his character that I read online was that J.J. Abrams was given the task of coming up with a villain that could like live up to the infamy of like original trilogy Darth Vader. So he came up with a villain who's struggling with the fact that he has to live up to the infamy of Darth Vader.
It's so great, isn't it? Like, that's so awesome. Like, to build that into the universe is is so great, and I love the coming, and Matt, you kind of touched on this, the talking about the dark side from a different angle. Like, all of our Skywalker characters have always been like wanting to be good but battling with the dark in them, and this is a guy that like wants to be bad but is trying to battle with the good side in him, and I think that's awesome. That's very new and interesting and refreshing in this world.
Which it was, and I wonder if people, and it stuck out, and I wonder if people like kind of caught that instead of just, and it's not a lot of people, but on occasion, asking some friends or acquaintances like what they thought of the villain, right? Because not a lot of people watch Girls or even know what Girls is or know who Adam Driver is, right?
Yeah.
I've seen him. I've been watching him since Girls has started, so like I can appreciate. I do appreciate like how good of an actor. Like I think he's a wonderful actor, or he's an up and comer for sure. And people were kind of expecting, what were they expecting in a villain? And I was like, well, what do you want? Like a General Grievous with 4 lightsabers again? You want
nobody
this,
wanted the first General Grievous.
Yeah, you want this kind of like imperfect, but human type of character they flesh out, and he kind of reminds. Like I kind of like picture what like Joffrey would have been if he had been, let's say King Joffrey would have been if he had been given like a Valyrian blade and then went on like a war campaign with some actual like depth, like actual.
Guys, 30 minutes into the podcast, and Gentry brought up Game of Thrones. Who had 30 minutes?
But it just reminds me of like a Joffrey with a personality, like if you had actually gotten a POV of his head. That's kind of what you really see the struggle, and I think Adam does a great job. Kind of
because this could have been fumbled so bad. Like imagine Hayden Christensen doing this role, and it's just
right.
Well,
like specifically when he goes, I feel like I'm being torn apart. Like that line could have ruined the movie.
I completely
agree.
But it was completely sold.
Because
it's
like
so corny.
sand. Because it's like sand. It goes everywhere.
Right. It's everywhere, and it's
it's coarse.
But like if that line stood out to me, it stood out because it was impactful and not just corny and annoying. And it's like dialogue like that has no right to be impactful, but it was.
Yeah. So how do we feel about him being Han and Leia's kid? I think in retrospect that's obvious, and that's a story element they really needed to do to make the old characters relevant.
I mean that's from the extended universe basically.
No, we can't. That doesn't exist. Doesn't exist now.
It's gone.
So like
I mean, it clearly stole
forgot about that whole thing. I guess that they were supposed to have kids. I forgot the whole extended universe thing, but I guess kudos to Red Letter Media because that's where I first saw them doing their predictions, and they pretty much nailed it just based off the trailer, or just based off of knowing what Adam Driver looked like. They thought that it was automatically Han's son.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So what do you guys think about? Because I thought him in the helmet, and then the moment he removes the helmet is just perfect to me. Like. The way the film did that, I loved.
I thought it was perfect too.
Like he's this ominous figure throughout the whole thing, and then he takes off the helmet, and it's kind of like, oh, you're just this like kid, like.
It's hilarious, and it's supposed to be hilarious.
Yeah,
it's like it's great. It was
Yeah,
but
and that's actually the point of the movie where you kind of start screwing up too. I think. I'm not sure.
Yeah. So I think we're ready. So let me make this clear before we go into let's destroy this movie mode. All of us like this movie a lot. We just spent the last 20 minutes talking about all the good things we liked about it. But it's not a perfect movie. And it has a lot of problems. A lot of the problems are related to the script and the story. So we're gonna spend some time going into that, and you're allowed to have differing opinions from us, but don't get mad at us and be irrational. Because what we do is talk about story and analyze stuff. So now that I've gotten that out of the way, this story is awful.
Yeah.
It makes very little sense, and retreads wherever it can. There's a difference between using imagery and straight out stealing story elements, copying them and pasting them into your movie. Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of surprising that he literally just did almost like a straight copy. I don't know. I expected a little, and I was trying. It kind of made me take a step back and wonder what is it that I wanted in a Star Wars movie. Because I was like, I guess I was expecting it to be somewhat fresh and original, but
I tell you what you wanted, Gentry. You wanted a third Death Star. That's what everyone wanted. Was more Death Stars.
So I kind of disagree that it was bad all around. So how recently have you guys seen the original trilogy? Because I watched the new movie, then I watched the 3 original movies, and then I watched the new movie again.
I watched them right before whatever podcast that was that we did.
Yeah.
Actually, I'm pretty much in line with Daniel. I saw part of 2 and 3 during Christmas, so I guess it was after I saw both movies or the same movie.
Okay,
my
because
wife went against my wishes and bought all the movies, the special edition movies, which I swore never to buy. So
well, you
those.
didn't buy them, Matt.
That's true, I did. So I watched those, and I was correctly verified that they're perfect movies. So Daniel,
you're coming from behind already.
All right, interesting answers. So I felt that after the second time I watched the movie, I was less bothered by the apparent retreading of story elements because, a lot of the theme of the movie is basically saying the Jedi have failed and they have been failing for the past 6 movies and everything is back and horrible again. So perhaps there's a way of doing this without using another Death Star. There almost definitely is. But I also feel there's, throughout all 6 of the original movies, there's kind of a sense of the Force makes things happen, which is the worst possible narrative explanation for something occurring. But nonetheless, it's a part of Star Wars, the universe. So I think at least it's extremely thematically consistent to have these sorts of retreading of things or kind of taking plot elements and doing them with a twist.
So I think that's fair, and I don't think that the retreading of plot elements by itself bothers me. I think the part that bothers me is how they seem very copy pasted with only the thinnest thing linking them together. I think it is lazy writing to just say the Force did it, and that's why all these very convenient things happened in a row to get the plot moving. But I mean, at the end of the day, that's not a big deal. The problems I have is the movie. It's so muddled, and it's really hard to tell exactly what's going on and to who, and what's the objective. If you compare it, which I think is fair because it wants to be compared to A New Hope, that movie was a movie with a very clear objective from beginning
straightforward
to end.
Story, yeah,
right.
From every scene. Pretty much.
This is a movie where they're trying to copy some of the same beats. They have the droid carrying the information that the people need, but in this movie, it's like this map. Which, okay, I don't understand how there's a map to a place where a person went by himself without telling anyone.
Right.
I don't get that whole thing. I don't we were talking about MacGuffins a few weeks ago, and this is probably one of the worst ones I've seen because it's a MacGuffin that doesn't even bother to try to explain itself.
Yeah. There are too many moments in this movie in general where you're like, huh? and that's, I mean, and it works in multiple ways. One of them is you're like a map, and then another one is like, why is the Millennium Falcon there? And that'll be one of the coincidences, which do bother me quite a lot. And then it's like, okay, now there's another Death Star, huh?
And why do we go to this random outpost to see this woman when I was formerly married to the woman you're trying to get the droid to? And why do we keep the information in the droid when it's clearly on a little flash drive and the droid is a one-of-a-kind thing that's easily recognizable everywhere we go? There's...
Yeah, and the thing is, these things are occurring to you while you're watching the movie. It's one thing to go back later and nitpick. When you can nitpick anything, but these things were bothering me during the movie, particularly the coincidences. I was just totally pulled out of the movie by all those.
Well, they make the universe or the galaxy seem so small, don't they?
Yeah.
like people are like, I think the biggest inclination of that is when the Starkiller base fires, and then you see Kylo Ren on the ship watching the blast go by, and then 20 seconds after they are on the outpost watching the planets blow up, his troops are invading. So like they must have taken like 10 seconds to get there or something. Yeah. And it just makes the world feel really small. And I think Abrams does that. He did that in Star Trek too, kind of like like it fast forwards and moves so quickly that like this whole huge galaxy is just really all next door to each other.
There's that, and then there's the like people crashing on planets and then end up in exactly the same place. Like he does the same thing in Star Trek too, where they beam Kirk down to the planet. The Romulans beam Kirk down to the planet, and like Spock is right there, and they didn't even know. I don't even think they knew Spock was on that planet.
No,
like
it's just
it was just
luck.
the most ridiculous needle in a haystack coincidence, and they don't even have the excuse of the Force or whatever. And here, in this movie, we had Rey's ship, but not Rey. We had Finn's TIE fighter crash within like 15-minute walk. In this vast.
Hey, it was probably like an hour walk.
I'm okay.
He was really thirsty.
I'm completely not bothered by that just being the Force pushing Finn's TIE fighter towards Rey, because the entire story is being driven by the Force.
I don't see. I just can't. I just can't swallow that as a story element. I can swallow the worm story element of the people's superpowers driving them into conflict psychologically in order to create more conflict, because that's kind of clever, even if it is a slightly cheap way of getting conflict. But just saying like the plot happens because magic.
Well, I mean, it's fantastical. It is far-fetched. It's the hero's journey. Like I was actually struggling to think of an example of the hero's journey that actually didn't rely on these sorts of ridiculous coincidences / superpowers / plot excuses to get things to happen. That wasn't just like a Marvel superhero movie. And I can't actually think of any that don't have this sort of things happen because the plot needs them to happen problem.
Okay, but so putting that aside, I still think the plot of this movie doesn't make a lot of sense to me, and it's not clear. So at the beginning, it's set up as we need to find Luke because a reason, and the first 2/3 of the movie seems all about getting to Luke, beating the First Order to Luke, because if they get there first, something bad will happen. And then it shifts to this. It shifts to the Death Star, the Starkiller base, type storyline, like 2/3 of the way through, and it's a weird shift into the third act that like almost seems like it belongs in a different movie. And I think this is where you see the script changes and the last minute stuff that like they wanted to do one story, but they were too afraid to do it, so they kind of did a little of both. And at the same time, there's Rey stuff going on with her arc of both realizing she's a Jedi and getting over her fear of abandonment and not wanting to go back home, with her relationship with Han, which isn't given time to breathe. It's just there's so many things going on, and the movie doesn't give time for any of them to do anything or for it to be clear with anything.
Yeah. Well, contrast to New Hope, like you said, you're following Luke very tightly for the whole movie. This movie splits you between Finn, Rey, and Kylo Ren. I don't know about evenly, but it felt like it was evenly. So you're spending much less time with each character.
Right.
Yeah. I'm okay with the complaint that the movie could have been 2 hours longer.
Well, I mean, no, that wouldn't have been good. I think it's trying to do too much. I think I think that's a product of it realizing that this is the first new Star Wars movie in 15 years, and there's so many expectations, and we have to fit in all these old characters and bring in all these new characters. We have to distance ourselves from the prequels. We have to show continuation from the original trilogy, but also make it clear we're moving on our own. So it's got to do all these different things. And really, to me, the problems in the movie start as soon as the old characters are introduced. That first hour, everything between Poe and Finn and Rey on Jakku, like all that stuff, I thought was great. And,
yeah.
And it moves, and it's fun, and then as soon as Han Solo comes into it, and I don't think it's not Harrison Ford's fault, it's not the character's fault. I just think it's when we start trying to plug all this other stuff into it. Speaking of which, that Han Solo scene where we first meet him on the freighter, I don't know about you guys, but I thought that was prequel level bad. You remember the scene in episode 1 when the fish gets them and then is eaten by the bigger fish?
Yeah.
That's that scene. That's what it is. Like
You're talking about the monsters?
Yeah.
The tentacle
squid
monsters?
Yeah. Like
Yeah,
it's just
I think-
they set up conflict for our characters and then they solve it by
I know.
having something else attack the things.
I think
was
they
a-
needed to sell a toy.
Yeah.
I,
Was it a
I think that was one of the things that took me out of the scene was when they showed this monster like viciously and instantly just consuming people, and then it grabs Finn and just carries him around for
Right.
minutes.
Yeah. Well, and the part where Han throws the guy towards the monster.
Yeah.
It's like, whoa, Han Solo.
Like, oh, Han, like total murder right
But
there.
I think the other reason why this movie is so strictly sticking to practical effects, and those movies looked and felt very CGI, or those creatures felt very CGI, I thought. And it because the movie was so pushing the practical effect, they made them stand out even more. That scene's awful. I think it's really bad. I would be okay if that scene was just have them land on the freight. Like, why have this stupid I guess they're trying to show, oh look, Han's back to being a smuggler. But,
Right. I almost like, and Scott, you pretty much nailed it. I tend to agree with. It almost would have been nice just to like see him kind of introduce, talk a little bit, and then just leave. Just do something, and then conflict will come after that. But it does seem kind of like the CGI was kind of on an island in that scene compared to the rest of the movie. Which I mean, it wasn't horrible, but because it's a squid monster, you just looking at this thing, you're like, okay.
Well, it's J.J. Abrams' obsession with squid monsters.
Right, you're like, all right, what movie am I watching now?
I think I texted that to you, Matt, right after I got out of the theater.
Finn
Well,
would have
you
definitely
know-
just been eaten for sure.
You know what just occurred to me is that this is another attempt to ape A New Hope, because A New Hope had a tentacle monster that attacked our heroes in a confined space.
It's the trash compactor scene. Yeah, absolutely.
Going back to the Starkiller base really quickly, like, I don't know, to me, just the way it seemed like they positioned it, and again, it's just complete guess, but I was thinking maybe that they put it in so that they can destroy it really quickly as a way to, as a like a rebirth of the franchise. You know what I mean? Like, since the prequels failed, like that's kind of what that whole whatever. It was plot device. It was for the movies, for the action, but it was too much. Like, it was just like it was going between kind of the two stories. You're lining up this whole like gotta find Luke, but then all of a sudden they're at the outpost and you're seeing Leia again, and you're like, wait, what are they up to exactly? Like, who's fighting who? But I don't know. Should we be expecting more explanation in a Star Wars film? Like,
I'm
Yes.
entirely okay with show don't tell here. In fact, I even liked
Yeah.
that they didn't dwell on the conflict at all, because it actually does make sense if you like go back and read extra stuff they talked about.
Okay, yeah, but that's okay.
fair enough.
I don't think I don't need them to explain the politics of the First Order,
Right.
and I just want to know, set the stage for me. Like, the first movie set the
Yeah.
stage. There's the Empire, there's the Rebellion. Empire's big, Rebellion's small. Like, this movie...
Well, I
there's-
mean, it sets the stage with like the opening scroll, and then it says nothing about that for like an hour and a half.
Well, there's
which might be the problem.
there's the Republic that's in charge. There's the First Order that's the remnants of the Empire. There's a Resistance that's different from the Republic.
It's
An
just the militant
insurgency
arm. It's just,
operating-
yeah.
No, it's an insurgency operating inside the borders of the First Order that is illicitly supported by the Republic, but not
Right.
openly supported.
Yes.
Why not just make it the Republic? I don't understand.
Well, it's
why
it's
go
part
complicated
of,
with
no,
that?
I'm okay with that complication because it's sort of more believable that way. It sets the stage for like this basically being post World War I, where you have basically a bunch of the galaxy or whatever demilitarizing, and another bunch of the galaxy heavily militarizing, and one part of the demilitarized part of the galaxy is like, wait, that's not good. It's the Empire again. We need to do something, and then there's friction and drama.
Yeah, but the movie doesn't explore that.
Yeah, and the problem isn't that it was too complicated. The problem is just that the information wasn't doled out at the appropriate time, and I don't want an info dump. I just want like one sentence. I don't know what it would be.
Well, so they cut a scene where they did this, actually. Leia had someone on the Republic planet talking to the Senate, being like, hey, we need more money to fight our battle against the First Order, and then she gets exploded. And like this was going to be a character that, like, there was just a character that was completely cut from the movie. So this existed at some point, but it is not there.
And I think that comes from... They're so terrified to show Senate scenes because they're trying to distance themselves as far as they can from the prequels, that anything political they're so terrified of talking about. And I don't even think they need that. I like Matt's saying, I just wanted it just a little bit more explained. Because this is a movie where and in the Star Wars, there were things... In the first Star Wars movie, there were things happening that we didn't really understand because we're an outside viewer to this world. I understand that. In this movie, there's so many people talking about so many different things that, like, we just have never have any knowledge of. Like, we don't know who Snoke is, but Han and Leia know who he is because they specifically reference how he stole their son from him. But we know nothing of that relationship. We don't really understand, except for a tossed away line about why Luke left, about what happened with all these Jedi, what happened when he turned. There were scenes cut exploring that as well. It's just very much, there's all these things happening and all these people know things, but they're not telling them to each other, which is a very J.J. Abrams thing because that's exactly what fucking Lost did.
Yeah. Wait,
yeah,
so...
I was just going to say...
Oh. Yeah.
No, you go ahead.
I was just saying, answer me this. All three of you can answer me this just really quickly. Would you have rather... Or, I guess, what would you have thought if they had done, like, a scene, like a 5-minute scene, intro scene at the very beginning, very similar to what happened at the beginning of The Fellowship of the Ring, if done correctly? Would you have liked that? I
don't think it needs that. I think to me, you start the movie 30 years later, there's been a peace, and then all of a sudden, this First Order ship shows up out of nowhere and starts, like, randomly attacking planets or settlements or something. Yeah. And there's this, oh, holy shit, scramble.
Kind of like how the first ones would start pretty much in every movie.
Yeah. I don't know.
I mean, that sort of happened, though, is my criticism. Like, the movie basically starts with Kylo Ren, like...
That's true, Poe is...
And a First Order attack team just wrecking a settlement. So it's like, no, it's 30 years later and they're still here. So.
Yeah, but again, they were already established, like, and we have no guide to explain to us what's really going on with all this. Like,
who was the old guy at the beginning? Because I actually don't know who that was.
Why did the movie treat it like we should know who that guy was? Did I miss something?
This is the whole, like you said, it's like Lost, it's J.J. Abrams and the stupid mystery. We gotta have mysteries, and it's like, look, in the original, you had Obi-Wan standing there saying the Force is an energy field that binds us, and blah blah blah, and this is Father's lightsaber. I am giving exposition now, but you're not bothered by it because of the context in which it is occurring. And this is Han Solo, who also gives exposition, but in a way that is humorous and mocking, and thus you don't notice that it is exposition, and you're learning about the universe through exposition, but it's not bothering you because the movie is doing it deftly. Whereas in this movie, it's like everyone's like, no, we're not gonna get exposition, we're gonna drop hints. We're gonna drop hints.
Yes.
There's an amazing story happening behind the scenes, and that all these characters are connected in this elaborate way, and there's gonna be a twist, and somebody's gonna turn out to be somebody's daughter, probably.
That's actually the best. That's the best comparison I've seen. That's perfect. That's exactly what I was trying to get to, but I couldn't word it that way.
I'm completely not bothered by this, so I'm sure all of these things will be answered in the sequels.
Well, but that's bad. That's bad
kind of
movie making, in my opinion.
Well, it sounds like it's like almost like sacrifice some, and maybe not creativity or whatever, but I don't know. But sacrifice something, I guess, for the because we're supposed to see something in the next couple of films.
Yeah.
Well, and
Yeah,
I think
it sacrifices the integrity of this movie. I think.
yeah,
Definitely.
and I think
It
all
does.
this has an effect on this movie too, and that's what I want to talk about Han Solo's death, because I don't think his death worked at all. I don't know how you guys felt about it. I was just
Nothing.
kind of like, yeah, exactly. This is one of the most iconic characters in cinema, and his death felt empty and meaningless to me. And it's because of what Matt's talking about, where they give hints at things without actually showing it. We don't have any context to the relationship between him and Kylo, except for brief
Hearsay.
sentences.
Exchange of words. Yeah.
And hints at a relationship. We don't actually ever get to
Yeah.
see it.
I wanted a little more from that. It was kind of a bummer.
And we don't have any, like, the relationship between Rey and Han doesn't get the chance to breathe either. So like, she's supposed to be beaten up and destroyed at his death because he's a father figure, which they tell us, the movie tells us that by having Kylo Ren say, "Oh, you think of him as your surrogate father." But they have like one scene together, like where it's just the two of them talking, and it's just it doesn't give it enough time. So like, you compare that with Obi-Wan's death in A New Hope, which is what they're trying to do. It's the same setting, the same kind of death. Luke and Obi-Wan's relationship was built from the beginning of the movie towards that point. Most of that early part of the movie is shown constructing their relationship and how he's teaching him, and his relationship with Vader is very clear. So that death has impact, where I think this death has nothing. And
I've seen exactly the opposite of that argued in basically saying that Obi-Wan wasn't as developed as that relationship. So
I don't
I mean,
understand that at all.
if nothing else, like, I can give you one example that would have improved this movie. One change that would have, and it's a change that would have made it more like A New Hope. What it is okay. So Luke says, "I want to go with you, Obi-Wan. I want to be a Jedi. I have undergone a character change, and I now want to be your apprentice." And then Obi-Wan dies, and then you feel it, because you're like, oh, Luke was obviously actually affected by this person because he wanted to change his life in response to him. Rey meets Han, and Han's like, "You're pretty awesome. You want to be my co-pilot?" And Rey's like, "No, not really."
Yeah.
And then you're supposed to be like, but she loved him.
Yeah.
It's like, no, you didn't sell me that, because if she did, then
No,
like, you
definitely
have to
didn't
show
sell.
me. You have to show me that through her character being affected by him in some way.
Well, and Rey's arc is weird in general. I read this great article on Birth Movies Death that talked about how her two big moments, if you will, are when she pulls the lightsaber out of the snow, and when she decides, okay, she's gonna go after Luke instead of going back to Jakku after the end of the movie. And the article argued, wouldn't it have been such a better, more dramatic, more fleshed out arc if those two moments were linked together in the same moment? Because she kind of has two different things going on, and they're really separate from each other, I think.
Yeah.
Like, how do you mean? Like, what do you mean in terms of the same moment?
So like I would have to think about how to construct it, but I'm saying that, like, the moment she realizes that she needs to leave Jakku and go find Luke being the same moment she finally touches a lightsaber again, which she swore she wasn't going to do.
I see.
Because that and that whole scene, like that whole exposition dump, flash forward and backwards and whatever scene, I didn't like that. I don't know what you guys think. That was all very weird.
The dream
Vision.
sequence thing?
Yeah, the dream sequence.
Did you not like it in A New Hope either? Or was it Empire Strikes Back?
It was Empire Strikes Back.
Empire Strikes Back.
Well, Empire Strikes Back, it was just a sword fight.
Yeah, that wasn't. It was
trippy.
Yeah, this is cut from different scenes before you can really understand what's going on.
Yeah.
It was almost, and there was stuff in there that I didn't even. I mean, this is a weird kind of tangent almost, but like, they show you, like, online, I've seen stills from the Vision where it's like, oh, in this still, I can see that this is Kylo Ren surrounded by weird-looking guys who are probably the Knights of Ren, and they're doing something. But in the in the scene as you're watching the movie, you're just like lights, fire,
It happens.
pushing.
It really
faces.
does happen too fast, and I've seen it twice, and
It is fast. Yeah.
well, and there's like
The whole
Ewan
part's-
McGregor is in there talking to her, like
Apparently, it's Ewan McGregor and Alec Guinness's voices merged together.
yeah. It's so weird.
What?
So which is
Really?
why one of the most popular rumors out there right now is she's somehow Obi-Wan's daughter.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
I heard
Which
that one.
I completely buy this.
I think that's probably going to be where they go because Luke's
Or
daughter seems
granddaughter, at least.
Yeah. Luke's daughter seems too obvious
Yeah.
because that's kind of what everyone expects, either Luke's daughter or Ben Solo's sister. Which, if they make them brother and sister, I'm gonna hate episode 7.
Yeah,
because
I would be genuinely upset if that happened.
because that means Han and Leia are just talking to her the entire movie without saying, "Oh, by the way, we're your parents."
It seems like it is going to be Obi-Wan. That's like, but would it be his granddaughter then? Obviously.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, because I guess because there's a huge chunk of time where we don't. God, even in like the whole Clone Wars like part, like we had a huge chunks of Obi-Wan's life that we don't get.
Yeah, but Jedi Knights are celibate, Gentry.
Right.
They hate sex.
Right. So that whole part.
Unless we ignore the prequels and pretend like they didn't exist.
Right.
Which is, I think, what we're doing, kind of.
Well, that's an interesting question about these movies: is the degree to which they don't want to they don't want to remind you of the prequels at all, but also I think that they are beholden to the story of the prequels, like canon wise. At least that's my understanding of Disney's approach to this. Disney's approach is that all
I don't
6
think they're
movies
forgetting
are
them
canon.
completely.
Yeah, they're not. I think they're using what they want to and ignoring what they don't.
Yeah. I think Dexter Jetsters make cameos.
He's gonna be a Jedi Knight.
I can't say that name without laughing. It's hard.
Did you know that Phasma, the Silver
Yes.
Stormtrooper's armor is made from the stupid Naboo cruisers from Episode 1?
No.
That's canon. That's actually what her
It's
armor
the
is made
actual-
from.
Yeah.
That's pretty
Well,
hardcore.
Looks just like it.
Well, you,
Pretty
you,
metal.
you want to hear something disappointing
Thanks, JJ.
and disheartening? I was reading how, obviously there were multiple designs for Kylo Ren or whoever the villain was going to be before they had decided, and like they had some design, and JJ was like, "Yeah, but the helmet needs to look more like Boba Fett's helmet."
What? What?
You want it to look more like Boba Fett's helmet?
Yeah,
What? Why?
because everyone loves
Everybody's-
Boba Fett. So now,
I
now you
don't
can't
get the
look
whole
at Kylo
Boba
Ren's
Fett
helmet.
love thing, but I also wasn't like a fanboy in like 1979. So
Thanks, Matt, for ruining that forever.
Yeah. Glad I could ruin the character who we all agreed that we loved.
I mean, I thought it was fine. I mean, there's no problem with his mask. It's just
I think
kind
it
of
suits
funny.
him. Yeah.
Yeah, it suits him. It's good. It's good. And I did like that part when, like Scott, like when you mentioned when he pulled his mask off, and the thing that annoyed me, and again, this is just being bitter, or defensive, or whatever towards other fans, but like the thing that annoyed me is people's general reaction to that I know, were like, who is this guy? Like, this guy looks like some big, sissy, type.
Yeah, well, that's
And-
people
and
not
I thought-
realizing that that's the point.
Right, and I was like, that's the point. I was like, that's exactly what it's supposed to be. But
I like that they gave weight to the helmet. Like, every time he set it down, there was, like, this really loud clonk. And that when he put it down in, like, a pile of pebbles, when he took it off in the torture room, did you guys notice that?
Yeah.
It's
Or-
really weird.
Yeah.
oh,
the,
yeah.
the fan explanation was that's Vader's ashes, which he huffs from time to time.
Oh, really? Is that accurate, or is that just...
I think that's the fans want this to be true.
that would be so amazing.
I
I kind
kinda
of
liked-
love that.
we obviously, everyone, we talked about his temper tantrums and stuff, and how he loses control of the Force, but you don't really see a Jedi type figure in the canon, or at least in the movies, kind of go ballistic with a lightsaber and just start waving it and hitting stuff. And it's kind of nice to see, because it's everything. It's been so proper for such a long time You get kind of like the natural feel of him just being a pissy little shithead that's gonna like, go to a junkyard and just start hitting, using something to hit all these.
Yeah.
And him like punching his wound. As he's
that I really enjoyed. That was totally Adam Driver right there.
He's crazy.
That he added that. That's totally that's his style.
Of course, the fan explanation for that is, don't you understand? Pain is part of the dark side, so he's just upping his power level by hurting himself.
God. Shut up.
Fanboys are the worst.
God, they're the worst. Like, no, that was a great addition, and actually that leads me to, just to mention the lightsaber. And again, I think I might be the only one, but I kind of wanted the lightsaber when it flew to, when Rey, but I kind of wanted to be so much of a struggle between them that it like flew past both of them and like hit her hand clumsily and like flew off somewhere. I didn't want her to catch it. I don't know. I understand it's part of the story.
Yeah, that had to be her moment.
It had to be her moment, but I didn't want it to happen. I wanted it to be a lot more novice and just amateur hour, and them look at each other and be like, holy shit, there's clearly, like, I'm clearly stronger than you, and then they both like race after it at the same time. I don't know. Maybe it was just me thinking at the same, like, while I was watching it.
I think, that comment kind of highlights the degree to which this movie is, I don't even want to say reinventing the Force, but bringing the Force back to the way it was in the originals, where, but like now, we have video games where it's like, well, you have killed the Wookiee, and so you were a dark Jedi, and so you get the dark Jedi powers, which are choking people and force lightning, and it's like, that was total BS. That was never in the movies. Like, the Emperor can make force lightning because he's incredibly powerful. It's not because it's a dark side power, and you never know what the Force can do. The Force is not this thing where it's like, oh, there's a couple of magic tricks. It's like it's the Force that binds the galaxy together. And so, like, I think it is kind of like a prequel interpretation of the Force, that you would have like two people struggling, or like the idiotic scene where you have Obi-Wan and Anakin like force pushing at each other, and they're ridiculous
But
faces.
their power levels are equal, so nothing happens.
They both have a power level of 9,000, so it doesn't. But
like, it did it fine. Like I just like to see. I like to see kind of the subtle, like, actual. It's what I expected, I guess. But I was hoping it, like, she would have just missed.
Well, and I liked it that the movie even takes the time. Like, she pulls that lightsaber, and like, you can tell she's surprised too.
Yeah,
that she did
for sure.
it.
They do a good job with her
And
reaction.
then she proceeds to kind of get her ass kicked while she's fighting him.
She does, yes.
Until the point where he, like, has her backed against the corner,
right?
And she realizes, oh, I have to be using the Force, and then like it's only that moment when she like listens to what Maz Kanata said and lets it flow through her or whatever, that she starts winning. So I don't have problems with people like saying, oh, she's so Force efficient already or whatever.
No, that scene was pretty much like spot on, and you're right. The part where she kind of realized that she did need to use the Force was done so well, and the color was fantastic.
That lightsaber fight was awesome.
It was great.
I mean, you don't think it would have been better if they were swinging over lava on cables?
So I actually saw the fake Force Awakens trailer first, which had like all the extra added TIE fighters and like Kylo Ren's lightsaber doubled like Darth Maul's with like double hilts. So, it could have been that way.
Yeah. I actually, back to his lightsaber, I love that thing. I think it fits his personality perfectly. And I love that, like, the conversation was when people first talked about the hilt guard, how it wouldn't be useful and it was stupid. Yeah. That so fits his character, because he would put something in there like that. That's useless.
The thing looks like it's about to, like, just combust.
And it looks like he didn't really know how to make a lightsaber, so he just like barely put one together. It's so great, and it's like, I love that the movie doesn't really ever explicitly draw attention to that. It's just there, and that's what I think the movie does well, is when it does stuff like that. I loved it.
There's a really subtle thing, but in this movie, and they definitely didn't do this in the original trilogy, and they only like a tiny bit did it in the prequel trilogy. The lightsabers actually glowed the color that they were, which was like actually a pretty powerful atmospheric effect when they were fighting out in the snow, where you like actually have like red glow all around Kylo Ren, and like intense blue glow around Luke's lightsaber. It was like, wow, this feels more like a lightsaber battle than any of the other lightsaber battles I've ever seen.
They did a great job with the glow, and when they're like together against the tree, it does become purplish. Like you're seeing the mix of color and the lighting and the shadow in her eyes, and it's fantastic.
Yeah, they did great. So when Kylo Ren sees the lightsaber for the first time and says, "That's mine," how does he know? Was it the Force? Did the Force tell him?
Oh.
I thought he would just be familiar with all of Anakin Skywalker's possessions. So.
Yeah, that's basically what I thought. Yeah,
Jedi history books, definitely.
I guess. I mean, it's being held. It's being held 20 feet away by a guy in two hands. All he's seeing is a blue glow. Like, whatever. That's just me nitpicking.
He went to that library or archive in Coruscant that has a bunch of books, but actually uses holograms to find information.
See, to me, that scene shows one of the changes that they made in production. To me, I think, because the rumors about the early version of the script is that it started and ended on Luke's lightsaber. So the movie opens up on his saber floating through space or whatever, and then it's found on Jakku. And that kind of sets forward the events as Rey is trying to return it to its rightful owner, and Kylo is searching for it. I think
a great movie.
That seems like a remnant of that storyline.
Well, maybe they should have just chased after the lightsaber, and not so much this random ass map that's hanging out in BB-8.
It would have been such a better.
I did like BB-8 though.
BB-8's great. He's great.
BB-8 was great.
He's
subtle,
fun.
funny.
Yeah.
Practical, I thought, except for maybe, I don't know, people I heard people making noises when he started turning himself down the staircase. They're like, you can't do that. That's impossible. That's spheres. I'm like, he's a droid. It's fictional. You don't even know what he does.
I mean, he actually did that though. So
yeah, it was a practical effect. Yeah,
that's right. It's actually him. Right?
Like it's not CG, so those people are idiots.
I thought. So, what did you guys think about the? So we've talked about how terrible the map is. What about the fact that the map was there sitting on R2-D2, who someone tells him that the movie's over, so he needs to wake up?
I thought it was hilarious, personally.
He's in quiet mode or sleep mode or some shit.
I honestly, so this is stupid. I now realize, but I assumed that when Luke had force programmed him to wake up when he needed to. And because you see him put his hand on R2 in the vision.
Yeah.
And then my brain made the connection of oh well, Luke is telling him, you will be called upon in the future. And I don't know.
Wait until the movie's almost over.
You will wake up when Han is dead.
Yeah.
Well, was that the first time that Rey was anywhere near R2-D2?
Possibly. But they didn't specifically show that.
I thought yeah.
It is. It is the first time.
Because there's also the fan explanation that R2-D2 is force sensitive, and it's like, someone plot important is around.
Stop it.
I better wake up now. Yeah. Also,
R2-D2
completely not bothered by this.
You're not bothered by anything, Daniel.
I am bothered by some things.
Daniel, what were you bothered by in this movie?
There you go. That's a good question.
I was bothered. I thought it was too fast paced. I agree with Scott about that. I could have used actually another hour, and it would have been completely great and fine by me.
Were you bothered by C-3PO saying princesses?
No. C-3PO was great.
Were you bothered by C-3PO's red arm so they could sell a new toy that's red-armed C-3PO?
I thought that was hilarious. And it's pretty Star Wars, actually.
It's pretty 3PO, yeah.
It was, yeah. I did actually like him, except for that one line, to be honest. I'm always...
I mean, even A New Hope is a little bit over the top with 3PO. So
yeah.
That's fine by me.
I
want to talk about critics.
Do this, Matt. That's good.
So I noticed something, which is that it seems to me, based on reading archives of reviews from when the original movies were released and when the prequels were released, and contrasting them with the reviews of the new movies, it seems like critics have had about the same opinion about the original movies as they had about the prequels, which tells you that critics don't know anything. Because because the original movies are like classics and some of the best films ever made, and had incredible staying power. And people were just like, yeah, it's kind of a childish movie. And it's like, yeah, you were so miscalibrated as to like what is good, and that it's not even worth listening to. And then people like Roger Ebert gave the Phantom Menace three and a half out of 4 stars, and said he praised them for their energy, their sense of fun, their colorful inventions, and their state-of-the-art special effects. These movies are about new things to look at. And I'm like, just there's no objective. It just highlights more than anything else that there's no objective scale in how movies are being rated, because like you can't compare the prequels to the originals. And I think the reason I bring this up is to say, like, people are saying these movies are great over the last week or 2 weeks or whatever it's been. People have been saying that these are really great movies and saying that they love them and everything. But I feel like in a year or 3 years, people are going to feel more like how they feel about the prequels than how they feel about A New Hope. Like you can, I will rewatch the original movies anytime, but I kind of see this movie as being one that
I agree with that.
Yeah.
For this movie, I also think that there's a lot of potential for maybe one of the, whether it's honestly, maybe even one of the standalone movies to make a big impact. I feel like they can have potential to have some kind of staying power, but yeah, I can't foresee myself being like, I need to see this every year.
Yeah, I think a couple of things. I think if episode 8 is better than this,
changes things.
I think that changes things.
It changes things.
I think if episode 2 fixed the problems with episode 1, people probably wouldn't think back about episode 1 as harshly as they do. But the other thing I think with that is, I think you're right about numbering and score. There's a reason we don't score reviews on our website, because I think that's stupid and arbitrary and dumb. I think critics love movies too. I think if they didn't, they wouldn't have gotten into it. So I think there's a certain level of leaving a movie really high from it. I can tell you that happened with me with Creed. I walked out of that movie saying, this is the best movie ever. I think it's better than Mad Max. I loved it. I still really love that movie. My opinion of it has really cooled off since then. It's a really, really good movie and one of my favorite of the year, but I don't think it's the best movie of all time. I think there's some level of that.
And you love Rocky.
Yeah, I think, there's a lot of times these critics come out of these movies and write the review that night, and especially a movie like this, and I think even episode 1 did it, because I think, if I'm being honest with myself, I really liked episode 1 when I walked out of it. I was just
because we were in 8th grade.
I was a stupid kid, but
right.
But
like Darth Maul was objectively cool then.
Yeah.
I think Darth Maul is still cool, honestly.
Objectively cool as a character, Darth Maul is awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. And at the time,
and his lightsaber
lightsaber fight was awesome. So
at the time, it was amazing. It was like the best thing ever.
But I do think you're right that I think in a year, maybe less, people aren't going to be looking back at this movie talking about it as universally positive as they are. I think the problem with things like Rotten Tomatoes, where the movie's sitting at like 93%, is 93% of critics said they liked that movie. But if you go into the actual reviews, every single one of the critics says,
has issues.
This is a good movie, it was a fun movie, but here are all the problems with it. And the problem with the Rotten Tomatoes system is it gives critics one option, or two options. You can either say you liked it or you didn't like it, fresh or rotten. And that's all. That's it. So
yeah, right. I mean, yeah, because again, the episode 1 and episode 4 have very similar Rotten Tomato scores, and this movie has a much higher Rotten Tomato score, and it's like, well, that's nonsense, obviously. So
yeah,
that's nonsense in every possible way. So
I don't place a lot of value into Rotten Tomatoes. I get excited when movies I like have high Rotten Tomatoes scores, because I know people do place a lot of value in it, and that means the movie's probably going to be successful. Like when Mad Max was reviewed really well on Rotten Tomatoes, I was like, yes, this movie's going to make money and we might get more.
Right.
But I think people place too much value in that percentage.
Yeah, you can't do. If anything, it's just a window to look a little bit further, to look a little bit deeper and read a couple of those reviews and see what they actually have to say instead of just seeing a number and be like, oh, it's definitely going to be good.
Right. Right. But I generally do agree with you, Matt, that I think sometimes critics are stupid, and I know I've said stuff. I came out of Furious 7 like talking up that movie, and I saw it again, and I was kind of like, I must have gotten caught up in the moment on that one because it's still a good movie, and I really liked it, but it's
You love Fast and Furious.
Oh, I love all the Fast and Furious movies. They're so much fun. They're really stupid, but
yeah.
Maybe I just don't watch Star Wars movies for their plots, and I just like the characters and the universe so much that I can excuse so many things. And I think that's the reason why I like this movie and I don't like Episode 1. And while I'll continue to like this movie, and I'll continue to not like Episode 1.
Yeah, well, I
the
think
prequels didn't even give you the characters, so we're definitely jumping a major improvement and a lot of room to grow.
Yeah, look, let's do our final thoughts, since we're getting up hour and a half time period. So, Matt, overall, this movie, the series, what's your final thought, final words?
It was a very enjoyable movie. I don't think it's going to have staying power at all. I think it's going to be forgotten. That's it.
Okay. Daniel, go.
The second best Star Wars movie,
Whoa.
Second only to the Star Wars Holiday Special.
Oh, God. Get out of here. Gentry.
What?
I definitely enjoyed it. I guess I'm a little curious, maybe a little worried as to where they're going to take the story, but I think with the characters that they kind of brought in, and, with kind of the directional and who owns it, the fact that it's Disney, I'm hoping that it goes into some, at least something original and creative. It doesn't have to be super fleshed out, complex story, but make me think a little bit about, and, kind of, I don't know, put me back in the seat if possible for at least something really, close to A New Hope or Return of the Jedi,
Yep.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I'm going to see all these movies.
Oh, yeah. Well, we're going to watch them for sure.
We're going to watch them. It's just I don't think this particular movie has staying power.
It's going to, I think it could be the okay part of what could be a good actual, next trilogy. But I don't know. Different directors, standalone movies. I don't know. Look at the Marvel movies, right? Where, there's, one or two standalone movies that I'm enjoying more than the kind of the big sequence movies, So I think anything's kind of possible, really, these days.
I think it's a good movie. I think J.J. Abrams has left Rian Johnson, who's taking over writing and directing the next one, in a tough place. I think Rian Johnson's a skilled enough writer where he can write himself out of that place. But if you look at it, I think Rey and Kylo are really the only characters with any arc left. I don't know what they do with Finn at this point. I don't know what they do with Poe at this point, who we never actually talked about, because in the original script, Poe was supposed to die in that beginning part and not come back. But they liked him and changed their mind. That's why he disappears for half the movie and then suddenly reappears.
Wow. Makes sense.
We didn't talk about Daniel Craig's character yet, so...
Yeah, true. Daniel Craig's character. It's big deal. But I'm excited about the next one because Rian Johnson is a writer and director that knows story really well. If you look at his last movie, Looper, that is a movie where it's all about the story, and it's really tight and well told and great. So I think Episode 8 could be really good, and I think if Episode 8 is good, like Matt's saying, I think this movie won't have staying power, but if the one after it is even better, that could create a trilogy that people compare to the original, even though I don't think it could ever be that good. But
yeah, and you know what? And hey, let's see if the Resistance is up to the challenge. There's no more Star Killer base or that type of base. I don't think they're gonna do that ever again. I think this is kind of a stamp on that. Yeah. So let's see what they can actually bring.
There's also no
Adam
more...
Driver, I think, is a big key, and I think also and Daisy Ridley as well. I think they're going to be very key for sure.
There's also no more Senate, so there's no more government, I guess.
I don't think we'll ever hear the word chancellor again. Not after the prequels.
I like, I like Red Letter Media's comment that the end of this movie levels the playing field between the two sides, and now it's more like an equal fight between two opposing
ragtag forces.
Yeah.
Rather than like anyway. Yeah.
Yep. But we will see. Next week on the podcast, I don't know what we're doing next week. we will figure that out and let you guys know. But we've got a bunch of articles coming. If you're listening to this, my top 10 movies list will be out. We've had lists going out all week. We'll have more tomorrow and Friday. So look out for all those. Matt, do you have anything coming out? I can't remember.
I have a list coming out.
Oh yes, another list.
Top most popular posts on our site.
It's going to be our final goodbye to 2015 is saying goodbye to our own website in 2015 by honoring our best posts, or at least most popular, not necessarily best. And all right, cool. Right. Gentry,
good stuff.
Where on the internet can you be found?
Wench tweet. It's the word wench and the word tweet put together.
It's beautiful.
That's it.
Daniel?
BerkeleyScienceReview.com.
Awesome. Matt?
More than a mail on Twitter.
You're really committed to just saying it now. I like it.
More than a mail.
And I can be found at ScottDaly85. That's Daly. You can also follow our website Twitter at Daily Planet Films, and you can find all of our writing every day, almost every day, at www.dailyplanetfilms.com. Thanks, guys. Thanks, Daniel and James, for joining us. It was fun, and we'll see you next week.